Yeah, it's Jaya Radha Madhava Kunja Bihari Jaya Radha Madhava Kunja Bihari Gopi Jana Vallabha Girivaradhari Yashodanandana Vrajajana Ranjana Yamuna Tira Vanachari Jaya Radha Madhava Kunja Bihari Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Ram, Ram Ram, Hare Hare. Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Ram, Ram Ram, Hare Hare. Jaya Radha Murlidhar Radhe Jaya Gaurachandra Jaya Gaurachandra Jaya Gaurachandra Jaya Gaurachandra Jaya Jaya Prabhupada 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 Jaya Jaya Prabhupada Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya So we are doing today verse number 36 from Canto 10, Chapter 1, Advent of Lord Krishna. Tam jugupsita karmanam Nrishamsam nirapatrapam Vasudevo Mahabhaga Uvacha Parisantvayan Tam jugupsita karmanam Nrishamsam nirapatrapam Vasudevo Mahabhaga Uvacha Parisantvayan. Translation. Wanting to pacify Kamsa, who was so cruel and envious that he was shamelessly ready to kill his sister, the great soul Vasudeva, who was to be the father of Krishna, spoke to him in the following words. Purport by His Divine Grace, A.C. Bhaktivedanta Swami Srila Prabhupada. Vasudeva, who was to be the father of Krishna, is described here as Mahabhaga, a very upright and sober personality, because although Kamsa was ready to kill Vasudeva's wife, Vasudeva remained sober and unagitated. In a peaceful attitude, Vasudeva began to address Kamsa by putting forward reasonable arguments. Vasudeva was a great personality because he knew how to pacify a cruel person, and how to forgive even the bitterest enemy. One who is fortunate is never caught, even by tigers or snakes. Om Agyantimirandhasya Gyananjana-shalakaya Chakshurunmilitam Yena Tasmai Shri Guruve Namaha. Shri Chaitanya Manobhishtam Sthapitam Yena Bhutale Swayam Rupa Kadamahyam Dadati Swapadantikam. Vandeham Shri Gurun Shri Yuta Padakamalam Shri Gurun Vaishnavamscha Shri Rupam Sagrajatam Sahagana Raghunathanvitam Tam Sajivam Sadvetam Savadhutam Parijana Sahitam Krishna Chaitanya Devam Shri Radha Krishna Padan Sahagana Lalita Shri Vishakhanvitamscha. He Krishna Karuna Sindhu Deenabandhu Jagatpate Gopesha Gopika Kanta Radha Kanta Namastate Tapta Kanchana Gaurangi Radhe Vrindavaneshwari Vrishabhanu Sute Devi Pranamami Hari Priye Vancha Kalpatarubhyascha Kripa Sindhu Bhaevacha Patitanam Pavanebhyo Vaishnavebhyo Namo Namaha. Jai Shri Krishna Chaitanya Prabhu Nityananda Shri Advaita Gadadhar Shivasadi Gaur Bhakta Vrinda. Hare Krishna 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 Hare 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 Rama 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 Hare Hare. Nama Om Vishnu Padaya Krishna Prishtaya Bhutale Shrimate Bhakti Vedanta Swami Niti Namine Namaste Saraswati Deve Gauravani Pracharine Nirvishesha Shunyavadi Paschatya Deshatarine. So, welcome everyone. Thank you all for assembling here for this morning Bhagavatam class, and I seek the blessings of all those assembled here, offline, online, so that whatever I speak may be pleasing to Shri Guru and Gauranga. So, in today's verse, we see that how we see a huge contrast between the divine and demoniac personalities that are mentioned by Lord Krishna in the 16th chapter of Bhagavad Gita. We have Kamsa, who the Shastras call a demon because he has dedicated his whole life to his own self-interest. So he can't be trusted. Whatever love, apparent love that they show is not actually love, it is lust. They do only, such demoniac personalities do only whatever is required for their own sense gratification. And we see a lot of the people in the world today are like that way. Even parents, some of them, they give so much of their time and energy to their children. They give them gifts. But many times it's because of a selfish interest, because they consider the child to be their property. My lineage is continuing with my child. My child has my appearance. He has my name, my, it's everything mine. And if the child is able to give that kind of sense gratification to their parents, then it's all well and good. And if not, then it comes to an extent that parents may reject the child and at times may even want to harm the child, as in the case of Hiranyakashipu, when he apparently showed he loved Prahlad Maharaj very much. But the moment Prahlad didn't listen to him, and Hiranyakashipu felt that whatever Prahlad was doing was against his prestige, all that affection faded away in an instant. Actually, there was no affection at all. It was just lust from his side. There was no actual love. And Krishna shows us these type of personalities often to show the demoniac tendencies that exist in the material world. We see that Kamsa is the cousin brother of Devki, and she's a very beautiful personality. He considered her as his family. She was the object basically by which he could show his power of affection, and even volunteered to be his chauffeur. Basically, this whole show of being the chauffeur of Devki and Vasudeva was to show that such a great brother he was. It was to show to the world that, see, I'm such a good guy. Actually, I love my sister. And obviously, there was a prestige attached to it. She was marrying Vasudeva also, who came from a very high family also. So we see that he was driving her to her new home, and he was thinking, oh, I love her so much, my sister. And then there is this Akashvani, the celestial beings in the sky, they announce that, Kamsa, you're a fool. The 8th child of your sister is going to kill you. And instantly in his mind, he's like, oh, I hate her. A few seconds back, he was thinking, I love her. And a few seconds later, he's like, oh, I hate her. And because she wasn't going to give him the kind of sense enjoyment that he was expecting. So he was even ready to sever her head from her body. So that is the tendency of these people who are too materially attached to sense enjoyment. They can never be trusted. And it is important that we know how to deal properly with such people who are too materially attached. Because unfortunately, we have to deal with such kind of people, maybe in our workplace, maybe in our family. Unfortunately, sometimes it could even happen. We have to deal with such people in the devotee community. So we have to be very cautious and know who to repose our faith on. We have to show them that, yes, we trust them, but internally our real faith, our real trust should be on Krishna and his sincere and trustworthy devotees. This love and trust is the basis of our movement. If there is no trust, then there is no love. And if there is no love, then there is no Krishna consciousness. So we have to aspire to be trustworthy devotees. So then we can evolve and help others also evolve and grow. We have to help our movement grow. And for this, the very first thing that we have to do is we have to try to control our senses. We have to be trustworthy by controlling our senses, by showing that we care. Because we all have this little bit kamsa kind of tendencies within us. We want to be number one. We want to show, sometimes, unfortunately, even in devotional service, we want to show that I'm doing much more better devotional service than others. But the real test comes when we are told to do some service which may be very risky, which may be very dangerous. But yet we do it because that is ordained to us by our authorities, by Guru, by Krishna. Then it is real devotional service. So I would like to speak a little bit more on our hero of the verse today, that is Vasudeva. And so just a little bit, I would want to say that Vasudeva is the father of Krishna and Vasudeva is Krishna. So I sometimes hear devotees even calling Vasudeva as Vasudeva. It's just we are so used to it. So Vasudeva is the father and the son of Vasudeva is Vasudeva. And we see that Vasudeva has all the qualities of a divine personalities. Srila Prabhupada describes some very good qualities in the purport. And the first one that struck me was that he used his intelligence, he used his diplomatic tendencies for the purpose of serving devotees. Vasudeva wanted to serve and save Devaki, not only because she was his wife, but also because she was a devotee. And as devotees, we have to protect each other. Plus, he's a Kshatriya also, so he has these tendencies of wanting to protect. So Vasudeva was thinking how somehow or the other, I just have to save Devaki. So he uses various diplomatic methods to convince Kamsa. We will see in the later verses how he's trying to convince Kamsa that killing Devaki is completely against the scriptures. It's not ordained. And even though later they are both imprisoned, Vasudeva and Devaki, even though they are both imprisoned, but at least he managed to save Devaki's life. He needed to do so that the day was saved. And that is important. We have to do what is necessary right now, use our intelligence in doing what is important in the moment. That is the pressing need. We even see some of our acharyas, they do this. It may seem, how is it that some of our acharyas can use diplomatic methods, but they do it all for the purpose of serving Krishna. We see Sanatana Goswami, when he was in the prison for several months, he used all the possible methods to get out of the prison. He used pleasing words on the Muslim jailer to convince him that, oh, I want to go and serve that same Allah that you are serving. And he saw that wasn't working. So he gave him gold coins. Okay, you keep some money. And he saw that was also not working. So he outlined a whole plan. Okay. You can tell Nawab Hussain Shah that, okay, I went out to answer nature's call and I slipped and I fell in the river and I died. So, he gave the whole plan. He used all kinds of diplomatic methods to escape from the prison. And what was the reason? The reason was to serve the Lord, to carry on the mission of the Lord. So it's okay if we can do this sometimes for the mission of the Lord. It's okay. We see Vasudeva is also going to do it over here. Another quality that is mentioned by Prabhupada is, Prabhupada mentions that Vasudeva was a great personality because he knew how to pacify a cruel person and how to forgive even the bitterest enemy. And this example of forgiveness is very important. We have to forgive ourselves many times and not be harsh on ourselves, knowing that we are trying to be a bit better day by day. And with time, we even have to learn to forgive others. And this is important because we want to basically be peaceful and sober so we can concentrate on what is important in our life. We don't want to have a vengeful attitude. We don't want to commit offenses on devotees. So that is why having forgiveness, even it may be to a bitter enemy, it might not be so easy initially, but with time, we do have to try to do that. But one of the most striking qualities that I personally liked very much in the verse was that Vasudeva was sober and unagitated despite his wife being attacked. And this isn't ordinary. Yeah, because Vasudeva himself is not an ordinary personality. Krishna won't choose any ordinary person to be his father. It's obvious. Vasudeva and Devaki were Sutapa and Prishni in their previous life, and later they were also Aditi and Kashyap. And in both the times, they were fortunate to have the Lord as their son. And this was their third time that they were going to have Krishna, the Supreme Personality, directly as their son. And they performed years and years, 12,000 years of the demigods. They performed austerities for 12,000 years of the demigods. And they subsisted only on the leaves that were falling from the trees. And because of this austerity, because of their deep desire to have Krishna as their son, they were completely absorbed fully in Krishna. And that is why Vasudeva was sober, because he was fully Krishna conscious. He was unagitated. He loved Devaki and he tried his best to protect her, to save her, but he knew that ultimately, whatever Krishna ordains, that is what's going to happen. If Krishna wants to protect, no one can harm. Prabhupada mentions in the purport that even if one is surrounded by tigers and snakes, he can't be killed if he's protected by the Lord. Prahlad Maharaj was thrown basically in a whole pit full of snakes. He was thrown in front of a wild elephant to be trampled upon, and so many other calamities, thrown off a mountain, many, many things. And because he was so fully absorbed in Vishnu and Narayan, his faith was unshakable. He survived everything. And especially as devotees, we have this special protection by the Paramatma within us. Sarvasya chaham hridhi sanivishto. Vasudeva knew that Krishna is in the heart of Kamsa, as he is in my heart. And unless until Krishna doesn't sanction it, Kamsa is not going to be able to harm Devaki at all. And how did he get this firm faith? It is because he was fully Krishna conscious. And this faith, it can't come about artificially. This fearlessness, it can't come about artificially. It takes years of practice. And also it can't just come with years of practice. It comes by the mercy of the Lord. We try our best and leave the rest to Krishna. We see even many devotees who are so fearless, even in the face of death, or even in near dangerous situations, in near dangerous circumstances. I would like to just briefly mention this pastime of Vasudeva, which is perhaps the highlight of his life. No doubt he's a great devotee and he suffered for years along with Devaki. But one of the biggest tasks that was given to him by Krishna was to take him across the Yamuna. And we see this fearlessness, this soberness, this complete dependence on Krishna at each and every step when he's taking his child perhaps his only child that survived, as per him, from one end of Yamuna to the other. So when Krishna appeared from the womb of Devaki, Lord Narayan, like Krishna shows his Narayan form just to appease Devaki and Vasudeva, that don't worry, I'm the same Lord Narayan and I will always protect you. But you have to take me across the Yamuna and place me under the care of Nand Baba, Nand Maharaj. And Vasudeva is such a dedicated person that he immediately, leaving aside any thought of personal sense gratification, he just picks up the child and starts preparing to take him across the Yamuna. He prepares a basket, fills it with hay, cloth, places his beautiful child in it, and he covers Krishna to protect him. And one by one, so many mystical things started happening. Through this fearless and brave act of Vasudeva, of going against all odds, going against all circumstances to fulfill the mission of the Lord, so many other devotees were able to serve Krishna. Yogmaya got a chance to serve Krishna because it was through Yogmaya's potency that the shackles that were binding the hands and feet of Vasudeva, they opened. They just broke open. The doors of the prisons, they broke open by themselves. All the guards went to sleep. So Vasudeva, through the help of Yogmaya, was able to cross and get out of the entire prison. And once he's out of the prison, Lord Indra decides, now it's my turn to assist Vasudeva and Krishna. He's pouring rain so much, like the clouds are completely covering the moon, and it's raining so much that basically because of this heavy downpour of rain, none of the residents of Mathura are on the roads or on the street. They all are inside their house. So this is the way Indra and the other demigods are wanting to assist Vasudeva and Krishna. And it's dark, but yet even Krishna is helping because Krishna he's self-effulgent. We are also self-effulgent, but unfortunately we don't realize it. We are trapped in this material body, but Krishna is always self-effulgent. So through the light emanating from his divine form, Vasudeva was able to go to the banks of Yamuna. And when he reaches there, Vasudeva sees that literally it's like a flood-like situation. Yamuna is like, the waves of Yamuna are like leaping up, and he's wondering, how am I going to cross the Yamuna and go on the other side? And in his usual self, in his fearless, dedicated self, he's praying to Krishna that, well, if you want me to go, I'll go, but you have to help me. And then Yamuna, Kalindi, she gets a chance to serve Krishna because Vasudeva is taking Krishna across, and she parts the way so that Vasudeva can walk unhindered from one end to the other. And obviously, Krishna is playful. That's what he is always. He knows deep down inside that Kalindi Yamuna, she wants to touch his lotus feet. And that's why her waves are like really shooting up and wanting to touch his lotus feet. And at the same time, Krishna also has this thought in his mind, I want to increase the love that Vasudeva, my father, has for me. So Krishna can do many things at the same time, like with just one act, he performs several pastimes with different devotees. So apparently, it looks like accidentally, Krishna slipped out of the basket that Vasudeva was holding on his head, and he falls into the water. Obviously, there's no accident. It's just Krishna's. He just falls down, and he's inside the waters of Yamuna for some few seconds. And at that time, Yamuna Devi is like so happy. She's touching the lotus feet of Krishna on her head, and she's serving him. But on the other side, Vasudeva, who had kept his love for Krishna so deep within his heart, it kind of like bursts open now. Where's my child? Where's my child? Where's my Krishna? All that love, all that emotion, all that deep ecstasy, just a separation of a few moments. He goes so frantic, like you can just imagine the pain of Vasudeva. He's already lost 6 children. He thinks the 7th child was a miscarriage. And now the only child, Krishna, the Supreme Personality of Godhead, he feels that he's done a disservice. Somehow he fell from his hands. And he's like, no, I have to protect my child. So much of parental affection. And he's crying for Krishna. He's like, no, I have to save Krishna somehow or the other. You don't need to save the Supreme Personality of Godhead. He's the one who's saving you. But this is what a father thinks when you are in that deep Vatsalya Bhav. And Vasudeva is crying with so much ecstasy that Krishna can't handle it anymore. He's like, I have to go back to my father. I can't test him anymore. I've done enough of testing. So he quietly again comes back in the hands of Vasudeva in his loving arms. And Vasudeva is so relieved. He places him back in the basket and goes on ahead. So yeah, Krishna does this. He tests us sometimes to increase our love for him. And yet it's raining a lot, and Vasudeva is worried about his son. He's so worried that Krishna shouldn't get hurt because of the heavy rain. And then another personality comes to serve Vasudeva and Krishna. Lo and behold, Anant Shesh himself comes, who is none other than a plenary expansion of Krishna. And he spreads his hooves over Vasudeva and Krishna till the time they reach the other side. And Vasudeva, once he reaches the other side, he performs his duty of going to Nand Maharaj's house and he exchanges the children and he goes back also. And in this whole incident, we see that because Vasudeva very fearlessly, from his own desire, you see, Krishna gives the free will to everyone. It's not that we are machines or puppets in the hands of Krishna. Vasudeva and Devaki had the choice to have children or not to have children, but they decided on their own will to have children and to know that these children would be sacrificed. Yet they went ahead and they did this task. It's such a painful task for a parent to see their child killed right in front of them. And yet they did this out of their own free will. And why did they do this? They did this to serve Krishna. They did this to serve the entire devotee community who was waiting for the advent of Krishna. They did this as a service to entire mankind. So, because Vasudeva was so fearless and he was so determined to serve Krishna, he gave an opportunity to so many other personalities to serve along with him. Ananta Shesh, Yamuna Devi, Indra, Yogmaya, so many personalities served along with him. And in the same way, we see Srila Prabhupada. He crossed oceans, just as Vasudeva crossed Yamuna. Srila Prabhupada crossed oceans in such a fearless and determined way to carry out the mission of his Guru, to carry out the mission of Lord Chaitanya. And it's because of him that we are able to serve Krishna. How grateful we should be. Thank you, Srila Prabhupada. So we see this vast difference between Kamsa and Vasudeva in this verse. Kamsa seems to be very powerful. And no doubt he had many great demons under, in his whole gang of demons, Putna, Aghasur, demons whose powers we can't even fathom. And Vasudeva seemed comparatively very insignificant. But Vasudeva was actually thousands and millions and maybe countless times more stronger than Kamsa because he had Krishna. Krishna was his property. He held Krishna so close to his heart. A devotee may sometimes feel that, how am I able to cross over this whole ocean of material existence? How am I ever going to go back to Godhead? But the fact is that if you have Krishna, you're stronger than anyone else, because Krishna is Mayapati. He is the controller of material energy. Mayadhyakshina prakriti suyate sacharacharam. And if Krishna empowers a devotee, then there's no looking back. You're going to go back to Godhead. So in summary, we have heard some of the main qualities that as devotees, we learn from the divine personality of Vasudeva, of being fearless, of having a tendency of forgiveness, being forgiving for the mistakes of others, using our intelligence to serve in the mission of the Lord. And we must pray to the Lord and Srila Prabhupada to help us on this path of fearlessly serving him. So I think it's been a bit of a heavy class so far. Yeah, we have this wonderful pastime of Vasudeva. So I would just very briefly like to share a little bit about some auspicious days that we have in the upcoming days, some auspicious festivals that are about to take place. Yesterday was Vasant Panchami, and Vasant Panchami is celebrated in a huge way in Vrindavan. It is also the divine appearance, the appearance of so many eternal associates of Lord Chaitanya, Pundarik Vidyanidhi, who's none other than Vrishbhanu, the appearance day of Srimati Vishnupriya Devi, who was none other than Bhushakti, at the eternal consort of Lord Narayan. It is also the appearance day. It was also the appearance day of Raghunandan Thakur, who with just so much of innocence and love called Krishna, and Krishna in the form of the deity came down from the altar to accept the bhoga that was offered. It was also the appearance day of our Prayojan Acharya Raghunath Das Goswami, who through his service of serving Chaitanya Mahaprabhu for 17 years in Jagannath Puri, it is actually through him that we know so much about Lord Chaitanya's pastimes in Jagannath Puri, because he later told it in Vrindavan, and Krishnadas Kaviraj Goswami heard it, and he compiled the Chaitanya Charitamrita based on this. And we have a great festival coming tomorrow. It's the divine appearance day of Advaita Acharya. And a week later, we have Nityanand Treyodashi. So I just want to just briefly speak for some very, very briefly just speak about Advaita Acharya. Advaita Acharya is a combination of Sadashiva and Mahavishnu. And it's actually because of the grace of Advaita Acharya that Lord Chaitanya Mahaprabhu advented on this planet. Just as Krishna comes to save Vasudeva and Devaki, in the same way, hearing the cries, the hunkar, the roaring cries of Advaita Acharya, Lord Chaitanya personally came on this earthly planet, because Advaita Acharya was deeply worried seeing that even the scholars, the pandits, the teachers, they were so arrogant, so puffed up with pride because of their learning, and they were actually worshipping just gods and goddesses for just their material motivations. There was no bhakti, there was no talk of Krishna, nothing at all. And even the few devotees who were practicing bhakti at that time, they were blasphemed, they were criticized, they were called sentimental fools. So it was a very abominable situation. And because of this, Advaita Acharya's heart was deeply pained. And he called Krishna by offering so simple, just Ganges water and some tulsi leaves and manjari on a Shaligram Shila, but he called from his heart. So we can prepare our consciousness from right now itself to thank Advaita Acharya. Thank you, Advaita Acharya, because of you, we are able to be in this movement of Lord Chaitanya. There's a very sweet pastime of Advaita Acharya and Nityanand Prabhu. Once Advaita Acharya was feeling deep ecstasy in the mood of the separation of that the gopis were experiencing in separation from Krishna. And he was praying to Krishna, please manifest, please manifest. And Lord Chaitanya was passing by, and this was happening in the temple room of Srivas Thakur's house in Srivas Angan. So Lord Chaitanya was passing by, and he heard these deep emotional ecstasy of Advaita Acharya. So he came over there in front of Advaita Acharya, and Lord Chaitanya asked Advaita Acharya, ask me for a boon. And Advaita Acharya is like, I have you in front of me, I have you in my life. What more can I ask for? But Lord Chaitanya insisted that, no, please ask me for a boon. Please ask me for a boon. So Advaita Acharya was like, okay, I want to see that form of yours that Arjun saw while he was on the chariot of Kurukshetra. And immediately at that moment, Advaita Acharya saw himself standing on a chariot, and he looked all around him. He saw that the Lord had manifested his four-armed form, holding a conch, disc, lotus, and club. And then this four-handed form turned into the Virat Rupa. And Advaita Acharya could see all the sun, moon, planets, mountains, oceans, everything within the body of the Lord. He saw millions and millions of eyes and arms, exactly the same form that Arjun had seen. And Nityanand Prabhu, he was roaming around in Navadvip in some corner. But in his heart, he knew that my Lord Chaitanya is showing his Virat form to Advaita Acharya. I have to also go and see this form. I can't miss this divine darshan. So he rushes over there to the house of Srivas Thakur. And once he sees, he also enters the house, and they both, Advaita Acharya and Nityananda Prabhu, they are seeing this divine form, this Virat form of the Lord. And they are offering obeisances again and again. They are weeping, they're crying, and they're dancing in ecstasy. And Sri Chaitanya Mahaprabhu, after being sufficiently pleased with their prayers, he blesses them and he leaves from there. And then Advaita Acharya and Nityananda Prabhu, they are so much still in ecstasy by seeing this divine form. Just the two of them, they're dancing continuously for so many hours. And they're hugging each other, they're embracing each other, they are falling on the floor, dancing and singing for hours. And then Advaita Acharya. You see, this is the kind of mood that devotees have, especially transcendental associates of Chaitanya Mahaprabhu that they have. Advaita Acharya, he says jokingly to Nityananda Prabhu, okay, but he has a very stern look on his face. He's addressing Nityananda Prabhu. Who are you? Who invited you here? That darshan was just meant for me. Who opened the door for you? Why did you come here? Nobody even knows who's your father, who's your mother. You just go and eat at people's houses. You don't even dress properly. And this is all true. It may seem like Advaita Acharya is saying insulting words, but actually he's praising Lord Nityananda. Because Lord Nityananda doesn't need to have a father or mother. He's the father and mother of everyone. He's beyond the rules and regulations of this material world of dressing properly, eating properly, everything. He's the Supreme Personality of Godhead himself. And then Nityananda Prabhu says jokingly, I'm an avdhut. If I hit you with my fist on your face, nobody's even going to say anything to me. You are disgraced. You are being plundered and wasted your life because you have a wife, child, and house, and I'm actually a Paramhamsa. So, these words actually, it can be so misconstrued by people who don't understand the divine nature of Advaita Acharya and Nityananda Prabhu. As devotees, we have to understand the nature of these divine personalities. Even in the festivals that are coming, we have to approach them with that mood. Who is Advaita Acharya? Understand who he is. Who is Nityananda Prabhu? Understand who he is. Then we'll be able to understand and relish these pastimes. Relish these pastimes of love. Even they like to pull each other's leg. Just like how we as devotees, we like to do this. They are personalities. We are supposed to be personalists, not impersonalists. Shantipur, the place where Advaita Acharya made his place of residence, is also very important for us as followers of Srila Prabhupada, because Srila Prabhupada visited Shantipur many times as a grahastha in the 1940s and 50s. And even he went to Shantipur a day before departing for the United States. And the pujari at the temple of Shantipur asked Srila Prabhupada, who are you? I've seen you come here for so many years. And Srila Prabhupada, in all humility, he says, I'm just a lowly servant, Abhay Charnaravinda Bhaktivedanta Swami of my great empowered Guru, Srila Bhakti Siddhanta Saraswati Thakur. And he's given me an impossible mission to accomplish. And I come here to Shantipur because I know that over here, Advaita Acharya, Nityananda Prabhu, and Lord Chaitanya are eternally present over here. I'm seeking their blessings so I can carry out this impossible task of spreading the message of Lord Chaitanya all over the world. And we know the rest is history. Many years later, the same pujari, he goes to our Mayapur Chandrodaya temple and he tells the devotees, your Guru is not an ordinary person. He's prayed, he's cried for the mercy of Lord Chaitanya. He's prayed for the mercy of Nityananda. He's prayed for the mercy of Advaita Acharya to spread this mission all over the world. And just how Srila Prabhupada has cried for the mercy of Krishna, just how Vasudeva has cried for the mercy of Krishna, just how Advaita Acharya through his roars, through his cries has prayed for the mercy of Krishna, we also should aspire to have this longing to cry with sincerity, with a deep longing for the mercy of Krishna, that we can be instruments in the hands of Guru and Gauranga. And then Krishna won't have a choice. He'll just have to advent in our lives. I hope we can all pray like this way with deep sincerity at the lotus feet of Srila Prabhupada, at the lotus feet of Shri Radha Murlidhar and God Chandra. Thank you all very much. So I will end my class here. If someone has any reflections, any questions that they may want to share. Yes, Shikshashtak Prabhu. Yes. I'm sorry, there's like an echo. I'm not able to hear properly. Yes, yes, it's not clear, but yes, please go ahead.
Yeah.
Maybe you could type the question in case, because I'm not able to hear you, if that's possible for you. Yeah, in the meantime, if someone else may want to share or have any other question that they may want to ask. Yes, Adipurush Prabhu.
You brought us right into Krishna's evoking deeper love. You brought us right into that pastime where Krishna slipped from Vasudeva's hand.
Yeah. Okay.
And then Vasudeva with intense concern for his child. So Krishna gave Ananda Bihari a very similar experience with Gaurangi when she was about 2 or 3 years old. At this park over here, there's a pond, and Ananda Bihari got on the telephone for a minute, and Gaurangi was poking the fish in the pond with a stick. And Ananda Bihari turned around, there were just Gaurangi's feet sticking up out of the water. It was winter time. He pulled her out of the water and he put her in his coat, and she was freezing. And but that feeling of fatherly affection for the child in danger is like very intense. It's very beautiful. But Krishna does that mischievously to whatever. Sometimes he does things like that. He puts us in concern, deeply concerned for him. That's all. All goes to Prabhupada. Imagine turning around and seeing a child like 4 years old, just see the feet sticking up out of the water.
Yeah. Yeah, it may seem, I mean, only a parent can understand how it's like, how what they must be feeling like. We can't gauge this.
It's Krishna invoking.
It's Krishna.
It does things that make you cry out.
That's always what he does. He makes us long for him.
How wonderful is Krishna.
How wonderful, how merciful. And he needs to do this. He needs to do this time and again, because even we as conditioned souls, sometimes we need to have these kind of experiences to understand that we are so incomplete without Krishna, to understand that our only shelter is Krishna.
Haribol, Hare Krishna.
Yes,
Thank
yes.
you for this wonderful class. I'm a parent as well, and hello, can you hear me?
Yes, I can.
Okay. I'm a parent as well, and my child, I bring her and my son to food distribution, and it's beautiful to see how interested they are in serving prasadam, and it's interesting to see how Krishna works through the children too. Like just the other day, I was doing something. I was outside, and I heard Krishna through my daughter. She was like, "Papa, you need to come home." And I said, "Excuse me?" And she said, "It's time for you to come home." And I said to her, "Mamita." And I was going to say something, and then I thought, wait, Krishna knows exactly where I'm going. So I turned around, I said, "Okay, Mamita, I'm coming home." And it's just amazing how Krishna works through the children. So I just wanted to share that. Thank you for this wonderful class. Haribol.
Thank you so much. Thank you for sharing your experience. Thank you. Yeah, he's mentioned in the chat. Yes, Krishna Daya Prabhu.
Sorry, I thought the time. Do we have time, Mataji?
We can do for 1 minute. Yeah,
Yeah,
maybe
just a short question. You said that. Thank you for the wonderful class. So, Kamsa was about to behead Devaki, but it's unless Krishna sanctions, it will not happen. That's what you mentioned in the class. So apparently we see in the devotees' lives, there are really some troublesome situations where devotees are suffering. So how do we understand this? Is Krishna sanctioning those, or karma? So how do we understand these things?
Yeah, that's a very nice question. Krishna sanctions everything that happens in our lives. There is nothing that happens in our lives without the sanction of Krishna. For us as conditioned entities or sadhakas, whatever misfortunes, whatever bad things happen to us, it is to purify us. And whatever happens in the lives of great devotees, it is just to glorify them. But whatever happens by the mercy of the Lord. So yes, it's sanctioned by the Lord. And I'm sorry, I'll just have to end the class at the moment. Granth Raj Srimad Bhagavatam ki jai, Prabhupada ki jai. Yes, I'll answer your question later. Maybe
No,
next.
that's answered already. That's great.
Thank you. Hare Krishna. Thank you so much.